Hello everybody, it's Stephen here from the Idiot Quilter and welcome to my weekly vlog. This is January the 25th, 2022 and it's vlog episode number 151. So let's get right into it. Hope you've had a good week and I've had a fairly productive week and I'm going to show you why. So let's switch over here to this project which you have seen already before. I showed this to you last week. This is called Little Town by Chelsea Stratton of A Quilting Life. And I said last week there was something about this I wasn't really sure about, and that was whether I should have had it a inner white border all the way around before I attached this pieced colored outer border. And at first I thought, no, I'm just going to leave it. I don't want to rip those borders out. It's fine as is, but it was nagging at me. So, yep, I went ahead and I ripped out these borders, put in a narrow white border, and then added these borders back on. And I had a piece a little extra onto each one because of course now my quilt was a little wider, and I think that was the right decision. And I now have it all finished completely, and here's the finished product. So you can see here I added that white border, which just gives me a little bit more space between the outer border and the houses themselves. And since I had done the outer border in scraps left over from doing the houses, without that extra piece of white, these blended in too much into the house, you know, as you can see here. You see how close they come to that? And yeah, I think it was worth the effort to rip off those outer borders and redo that. Now, it really didn't take me that long. It wasn't a difficult task, but I am glad I did it. And it's all bound now, as you can see, and I have it quilted, and I did it on Lucy, my long arm, and I used these geometric squares that have rounded corners. Now, I had heard something at one point in time that if you have a lot of straight lines or angles in your piecing, that you're best to do quilting that has curves to it, I don't know why, opposites attract, I'm not sure. It's not a written rule. You can do whatever you want to do. But I do kind of follow that rule to a certain extent. Well, this pattern is actually kind of in between that. It's a lot of straight lines, but it's also a lot of curvy lines. And so anyways, I think it worked out very nicely on this quilt. Now, this quilt was a Christmas design because of the trees, the stars, and that kind of thing. But as you can see, I did not use Christmas fabrics in this. And so basically, you could have this quilt out and about all year round. Well, you can have any quilt out all year round. If you've got a nice Christmas quilt you like, you can put it out all year round. Why not? Why save it just for Christmas? But anyways, this one is now done, and I'm really happy with the way it turned out. And I'm just going to flip over here and show you the backing because I actually took a picture this time of the back. And so you can see I've used a fairly busy fabric, and this is the same fabric that I use for the binding as well. You can't really see my quilting. I'm blowing it way up here. There you see a little bit of it there because I used a very light lavender mauvey colored of thread. Now, this is a habit I have to get out of. This stems back from my days when I was trying to quilt on my domestic machine. I would use thread that would blend into the backing fabric more because I was afraid if I made any mistakes, you know, it won't show up as much if it blends into the backing. Well, you want to know something? One, nobody really looks at the back of your quilts that much. And two, let's be bold. You know, so what? You make a little mistake, who's going to notice it? You know, a man on a galloping horse going 30 miles an hour, you know, will never notice it. So, yeah, next quilt I do, I'm really going to try to make a conscious effort to pick a thread for my bobbin for the backing that will be much more bold and show off the quilting a little bit better. So, anyways, I'm really happy with how this quilt turned out. And, yeah. Now, I did work on something else, and I did show you, oops, sorry, I'm jumping ahead of myself. I wanted to talk a little bit about my other little project, after I got done that quilt, you know, before I move on to my next project, major project, I needed to clear the palette, or cleanse the palette, so to speak. And I happened to be watching So Very Easy with Laura, and she was talking about this pattern for doing Valentine's tablecloth. Now, or tablecloth, table runner. Now, I'm not into Valentine's Day, really, never have been. And to be honest, pinks and reds are things that I use very sparingly in any quilts that I make because they are not my favorite colors, especially pink. Um, I'm not absolutely opposed to putting pink in something, but I wouldn't want to do something that was more towards that tone, like a lot of it. But she was showing this pattern, and it's a free pattern from Riley Blake, and I have linked it down in the show notes below if you're interested in it. And I forget what exactly it's called. I think it's Rainbow Hearts, they call it. But really, you can make it out of any color of fabric you want, and that's what I did. So you can see the hearts here, but what I did was I used some butterfly fabric that I have. And you know how I love butterfly fabric. And I think this fabric is from a line from Timeless Treasures. And it's been sitting in my stash for quite a while, waiting for a project. And I thought, well, let's break it out and do this project. So this was really quick. I did it on a Saturday, last Saturday actually, and I finished it up on Sunday. So it didn't really take that long. Once you get going with it, it's very easy to piece it. And I just did what they call that pillow backing or whatever, an envelope backing, you know, the kind of thing. So there isn't any binding on this. I just had it turned inside out, you know, sewed it, left a gap, pulled it all through, and did it that way. And I often will do that kind of effect on things like this, you know, just quickie projects. Now, I'll tell you one thing though. I stopped doing this type of technique for a while, and I was making myself do the binding because I was having a little problem when I machine quilt it. I was doing it on domestic machine, and it would bunch up on me a little bit. Like, it, you know how you sort of tighten up your fabric, but sometimes it spreads out as well, depending on what kind of pattern you're using. And I was getting like little bulges here at the edges. Well, this time I did not get those. I was very careful with it, my spacing and everything like that, and it worked out fine. This is just walking foot quilting, a little close up. My infamous serpentine or wavy line walking foot quilting, and I didn't want to spend much time quilting this because it was just a quick little project. Now, will I put this on a table? Maybe. I have a ton of table runners. I should switch them out every month on my table. This one though, I think I'll probably just leave it in my stash, and when I need a little hostess gift or something back again, when we can actually go out, see people, maybe get invited to people's places for dinner or whatever, I've got a little gift that I can give them. So, you know, really my purpose for making it, as I said, was just to cleanse my palette to move on to my next projects. And what are my next projects? Well, this. Okay, this was not in my list of projects I wanted to do this year, but that's okay. You know, lists are made for making new lists about and for revision. And I don't know, I think I was watching a Missouri Star Quilt YouTube video, and it was one where Jenny Doan had been doing a bookcase or bookshelf quilt. And, you know, I was an English teacher and I love literature, and I thought, how appropriate for me. I would like to do that kind of thing. So I started to investigate, looking for patterns. Well, a lot of the patterns were calling for, well, not a lot, all of them called for like many little pieces of fabric in different colors for the variety of the books, because this is going to look like a bookshelf when you get all the blocks together. And so you don't want all your books looking the same, right? So fine. But then I got thinking about, well, how are they getting the words onto the spines of the book? And I think in a lot of cases, if they were putting words on the spines of their book, and you can see in this block, not every book has a title on it, you know, for a little variety, it looked like they were probably hand embroidering them. Now, I knew that there was ways that I could do it in such that I could, embroider it onto the fabric first, then put the fabric down and, sew it into the block. But I didn't want to do that. So I went looking for in the hoop projects, embroidery projects that would make this wall hanging or a quilt. And I found one on Sweet Pea, and they had a really great video tutorial to go along with it. So I watched the video tutorial and decided to purchase the design. It was not particularly cheap. It was $30 Canadian, but it will make, well, you can make as many blocks as you want. Basically, I think this finished one that I'm making is 16 blocks, something like that, and then you put the blocks together. And I've done this kind of quilt before, as you well know. So I'm no stranger to the technique. So this is the first block, and you can see it turned out pretty good. And I've made a second block since I took a picture of this, but as I go along each week, I will show you more blocks. This is a project that I'm going to be working on as I'm working on another quilt, which is called Making Waves, and it is a form of a Bargello quilt. I have nothing to show you right now for that because I have my fabrics picked out and I just started cutting them yesterday. So I'm going to go alternate between these two projects. When I get a little tired of the one, I'll move over to this one. And so essentially I'm working on two quilts, well, a quilt and a wall hanging, because this will become a wall hanging. And I just thought of something. Do I have a wall to put it on? I may have to start swapping out the wall quilts I have hanging up now in my house. I need a bigger house. I need more walls. But anyways, yeah. So this is my next project that I am working on. And as I said, I'll show you my progress each week as I get to it. Okay. So that's a couple of things that I've been working on. And there's one more thing I have been working on as well, which, well, there is a little bit of sewing involved in this, but most of this is 3D printing. And you know I love gnomes and anything gnomes. I don't know why, it's just my kick this year, I guess. Gnomes started at Christmas and I've just carried over. So I've made a lot of gnomes in various forms, and a lot of them I've made on my 3D printer. Well, I had one gnome that I had posted on Facebook. Actually, I posted it on Facebook, and if you saw my vlog yesterday, I showed you a picture of Walter and said he looked like a gnome. He was out doing the, snow blowing last Monday when we had the big drop of snow here. And so I took his picture and I took a picture of one of my gnomes. I put them side by side on Facebook and said to people, can you see the difference? Kind of just as a little joke. Well, one person who you've heard me talk about many, many times, a good friend of mine who owns the Ultimate Sewing, my quilt store of choice, she wrote a comment saying she would love to buy the gnome from me. Because she's kind of into gnomes too. And at Christmas time, in her little package of things that I'd given her, I had put in a gnome pincushion for her as well. She said she'd buy it from me. She'd trade me for it with fabric and stuff like that. Well, she's a really good friend as well. And she has done so much for both Walter and myself at the store and whatnot. And, I like to make things for people. So I thought, okay, let's make her some gnomes. And I might have got a little carried away, as you're going to see here right now. Yeah, I kind of made her a lot of gnomes. So, what have I got here? Well, I've got gnomes in sort of rainbow color, various sizes. I've got a gnome. It could be a flower pot. It could be a pen holder or tool holder. This is a filament that's called marble. It's got a marble-like a look to it. I really love that filament because it looks like stone. And I also made this little thing over here. Now, I adapted this. I used my gnome model, and this is actually a simple little cell phone holder, and I merged the two designs together and adjusted the sizing, and it can still be a cell phone holder, but what I intended for her is to put her business cards in it, because she has her business cards sitting at her cash register on her counter in her store, and she's just got one of those, simple little clear acrylic things. And I thought, this would add a little bit of whimsy, a little bit of conversation piece while people are standing at the counter getting their order rung in and that kind of thing. So that's what I'm going to suggest to her that she use it for. But it's totally up to her, of course. And then these three things here were another In the Hoop applique project, and they're trivets. They're hot mats for your table. So I made three of those and sort of coordinated the colors a little bit with the rest of the gnomes here. So this is a gnome set, and I've wrapped everything up and I've boxed it up, and I wrote a little piece, I think it's humorous, about each of these gnomes. I call these the magical gnomes, and I explain, if you put one in your kitchen, you'll have, you'll never have a failure in the kitchen, and you'll never have dirty dishes to clean up, and all kinds of little things I just wrote about this kind of stuff. And I did that for all of these pieces, and it's all meant to be a little bit humorous. So I've got it all wrapped up and packaged, and maybe later today we're going to run over to Ultimate Sewing and drop it off for Shirley. And I know she'll get a kick out of this, and I'll get a kick out of the fact that she's getting a kick out of it. So I hope she doesn't see this video until after I've given her this little gnome gift. And I'm working on some other things which I'll show you next week, which are not gnomes, but they're a bit whimsical too. That's what I tend to make on my 3D printer, little whimsical items. And of course, I'm always on the lookout for something that I can make into a pincushion, and it's becoming a bit of an obsession. Yeah, I've got a lot of pincushions right now. So, some people said to me, well, you should sell them. Well, yeah, no. Well, just as an aside, even these gnomes and things, these are not original designs to me. I mean, the one with the cell phone holder sort of is, but I didn't make them from scratch. I don't know what the laws of copyright are on these things, because people post these things online and they're free and they're meant for anybody to download and I guess do what you will with them. But I'd feel a little funny about selling something that's not my original work. So maybe I'll start giving them away. We'll see. Do have a retreat coming up, and I'm thinking prizes. But I'm going to talk a little bit about retreats in a few minutes too. So we'll hang on to that thought for now. Okay, let's jump into a demo I want to give you. Now, I don't know about you, but me, I have a lot of quilts. I've been making a lot of quilts, and they're sitting upstairs on my guest bed, and maybe next week I'll show you exactly where all my quilts are. But in the meantime, there they sit, and you've heard me talk about this before. What am I going to do with them? But I would like to have a record of the quilts that I've made, and I want something that's more than just words. So what I do is, after every quilt that I've made, I take a picture of it and I file it away in a directory on my hard drive on my computer, and there it sits. But what would happen if suddenly my hard drive blew out? Okay, I would lose all of that. So I should print them out. Now, way back when I first got into quilting, and because I came from a scrapbooking background, I thought, well, I'll make a scrapbook of all my quilts. I started that and decided not. My heart wasn't in that, and I just didn't do it. So I didn't do anything. Well, now what I do is I have created a pictorial directory of my quilts, and I'm going to show you. I did a little video to show you what I'm talking about. So I'm going to insert that here. How do you keep track of the quilts that you've made in terms of what they look like? Oftentimes we give quilts away to people or to charity groups, and we don't have any pictorial record of one of our creations. So what I do, what I make a habit of, is after every quilt is finished, and actually sometimes before they're finished, I will pull out my camera, spread the quilt out on the floor, and take a picture of it. And then I store that on my hard drive. Now, the other day I got thinking about this. They're fine, they're on my hard drive, but if something ever happened to my computer or if my hard drive crashed, I would lose all those pictures. So I need to have them in a more permanent holder, I guess, so I could, well, basically what I'm talking about is printing them out. And I know that's something we don't do a lot of these days, With digital technology, we just tend to upload them to the clouds and put them on Facebook or whatever. But I decided I would print these all out. Well, I've got quite a few pictures on my hard drive, and yes, I could go into a like Photoshop, something like that, and I could print them out one by one, and of course I could edit them, I could crop them, do all that kind of stuff. And in fact, when I first got into quilting, and because I had been a scrapbooker, I thought I would make a scrapbook of my quilts. I may still do that someday, but I started the process and I found it a little bit tedious. My heart wasn't really in it, so they just ended up all sitting on my hard drive. Now, I do have Photoshop Elements, and Photoshop Elements has a program built into it called Organizer. And essentially what Organizer is a directory system where you can create folders in Photoshop and put as many pictures as you want into that directory. But there's an added beauty to this. So let me show you what I'm talking about. There is a way that you can have your computer then, sorry for the glare, print out all of your pictures very quickly and even name them. So I'm going to show you what I have done here. So I'm just going to switch my screen over to my Photoshop Elements, and you can see here little thumbnails of all the different quilts and projects that I have on my hard drive. Now, if these are too small for you, there's a little zoom button down here, and you can just drag it over and make them as big as you want them. So not only is it a way to keep a pictorial record of all of your files, but you can also organize them when you're in here as well. If you only want to print one or two, you can just select them, and the way you do that is you just click on the picture and you get a little check mark right down here. I hope you can see that. Maybe I'll make this a little bigger. Okay, so as I said, click on it, little check mark comes up. Now let's say you want, that's for single pictures, but say you want more than one. All you have to do is click on one, and the next one you want, hold down your control key. I'm using a PC. This might be slightly different in a Mac. And you can add to that file. So once you've selected the pictures you want, and you can go up to the top here under File, and sorry, I think it's under Edit, and it says Select All. And you can do that, and everything is there, and you can deselect all. So there's lots of things you can do with this to personalize it. Now, let's say you want to print out a record of all of these like I have done. So all you need to do is go up to File after you've selected your pictures and click on Print. And in a moment, this will come up. It should come up. Here we go. May take a little bit of time. If you get a little warning like this, just say okay, because there may have been something wrong with that file. And there you go. You have a page of your pictures. Now, if you look down here, it says 1 of 18. So it's 18 pages that I can print. But let's say I think there's too many on a page. I want to make it smaller. Well, there's several things I can do. Simplest thing is to go to Select a Layout and change the number of columns. Right now I have 3 columns. I can drop that to 2. And if I do that, the pictures are bigger. I can even drop it to 1, and then it's full size. I have the ability to crop it or leave it. So if I crop it, it's going to fill up more of the space, but it might cut off some detail. And up here you have select type of print. Now right now I have selected contact sheet, but I can do individual prints, and it'll show you what that looks like. And down here it says select print size for 4 by 6. Now let's say I want to make postcards out of my pictures, and many people do. Well, I can select this. 4 by 6 is a good postcard size, and for the sake of saving paper, especially if you're using photo quality paper, which is a little bit more expensive, you can have several pictures. It'll automatically fill the page with as many in that size as it can get on the page. But you don't have to have that. You can click on it and delete anything you don't want on that page. You can change the size. 4 by 6, drop it down. You have as small as 2.1 by 2.8. Let's see what that looks like. Lots of little pictures there. And I can go to 5 by 7. And I can get 2 on a page there. And 8 by 10. Now, just as a side note here, you'll notice that when I went to 4 by 6 or 5 by 7, 5 by 7, I'm getting a duplicate. That's only because I have 2 in the same folder. I can get rid of that, highlight it, delete it, it'll change. There you go. It didn't give me automatically 2 copies of that same picture. It was just because I had 2 pictures of that in my list. But what I do is I select, oh, there's one called picture package as well. Now, this gives you like, it's sort of like, remember when you were a kid and you brought home, or your kids bring home now, those packages of school photos, and there's a selection of different sizes. And the idea is you cut out what you want. Well, this is how this works as well. So you can see, and it tells you here, like I can get, on a letter, I can get 2 by 3s. I can get some that have a combination. So you can play with that. You can even select a frame to be around each picture, and there's different types. They have in this program like antique oval. So you see, I get little vignettes. So there's quite a bit you can do in this organizer. But let's get back to what I do with it when it comes to just keeping a record of my quilts. So I go into contact sheet. And I can select my columns. I'll select 3. And it's going to be 18 pages. But underneath here, I do have the name of each one. Now, if I named each one of these photos when I put it on my hard drive, then that's the name that'll appear if I click the caption. And that's if you go down here and click on Show Print Options. And here I can click, it's got file name, page numbers, but I can also put in a caption. So if I want to personalize that and write something about the picture, I can do that. And but I just leave it on file name because that's an easy and fast way. I don't have to do any extra typing. From here, I can just go ahead and hit print and let my printer do its thing. And that's how I get the visual record that I was showing you a moment ago, this. Now I put them in plastic covers and put a little C-ring in them. I could put them in a book, whatever. I could put them in a three-ring binder, which I probably will eventually do. And there I have a pictorial record of all of my quilts. So this was an organizing tip, but it's a great way to keep a record of your quilts, especially if you tend to not keep many of them and give them away. You might want to refer back to something like that for the sake of, say, a pattern. Speaking of patterns, this just came to mind. Why not take a picture of the first page of a pattern you have? You know how the cover page will have a picture of that pattern. Take a picture of it, put it on your computer, and do the same thing. And now you have a visual record of all of your patterns as well. Just thought of that. Might have to do that as a future project. So that's an idea maybe you can use for yourself as well if you don't do something like that already. It just keeps a record, a visual record of the quilt you've created, and especially if you've given some away, you know, it's a nice memory. Okay, so let's get right into subscribers quilt of the week. This is an entry from Yvonne McNeil. Yvonne McNeil is a regular viewer here. We've seen some of her lovely creations before. And here this week's subscribers quilts are again from Yvonne McNeil, who is a regular viewer here, as you know. And Yvonne sent me a couple of pictures of some very stunning projects that she has recently completed. She says, "Hi, Stephen. The first one is a wall hanging for my mom for Christmas, walking for quilting and paint for detail." So she has paint on here. I wonder if we can figure out where she's put the paint. Well, I can see the walking foot detail, but to be honest, I really can't see the, oh yes, I think it's these. The stars are painted on. That's a really neat effect. You know, something like that to try and piece it or and work it in would be very difficult, but on here it looks very, very stunning. And the center looks like it may also be painted. I think so. So that is really a neat technique, and it looks really great, this final product. And you know, painting on fabric is very, very trendy these days. Not only that, but I would call this then, since you've added the paint to it, this is an art quilt, really. I'm just wondering, did you use a fabric paint? You probably did. And would it be washable? Well, it's really nice, really beautiful. Now, the second one is also a wall hanging, she says, and this she made for her dad for Christmas. And she says it's a real mishmash of stuff: paper piecing, applique, paint, and buttons. And let's take a little closer look at that. And yes, you can see the applique, and you can see, yeah, the paper piecing, the whole bit, and up here, the buttons. Very, very artistic. Very, it's got a really nice look. And this looks like it might be paint again here on the struts of the guitar. So what a mixture of mixed media products to create a really beautiful art quilt. And she goes on to say they haven't yet received them. It's too expensive to ship, but they will likely see them in May, so I will give them then. Or she's going to be seeing them, visiting them, I guess in May is her plan, and she'll give it to them then. She says, you've motivated me to get more done. Thank you for that. I have taken up crochet, so when I have some finished projects, I will send pictures. Well, please do, Yvonne. Your work is absolutely stunning. And so I'm starting again to run out of your creations to show, so please send me 1 or 2 pictures of something you're very proud of. Give me a little blurb about it, not long, 2, 3, 4 sentences at the most, and I will feature you here on a future episode. And that takes us to the YouTube channel of the week, and this one is a little interesting. I think one of my viewers, I can't remember who, sorry, recommended this one. It's called Nickel and Dime Decor, and I checked it out, and it's a small YouTube channel, but you know I like to support small YouTube channels, you know, help people out. And so here's my review of Nickel and Dime. This week's YouTube channel of the week is called Nickel and Dime Decor. And I don't think that name does it justice, because this isn't really nickel and diming, although many of the projects that are on here are things that you can use from your dollar store or from your stash. So this is I don't know how long this particular YouTube channel has been up. They don't have a lot of subscribers, but they should gain more after this review. If you take a look at their homepage, they have a variety of topics: how to make oval placemats, how to organize your fabric, mug rug tutorial for beginners, quilting treasures found at an estate sale, color my world baby quilt. So there is a variety of things here. And if we delve into it a little deeper, go under the video title, you have the ones I just mentioned, but they also have a candy basket, machine quilting using straight lines for your borders, more baby quilts, mug rugs, gifts for neighbors. Actually, there is a wide variety of things here. So if you're looking for ideas, especially for simple gifts or baby quilts or something like that, this might be the place to go. If we check out their playlists, they seem to have a few here. They've organized some of their things under baby quilts and mug rugs, inspirational, Yellow Brick Road tutorial series, which is, it looks like a series where they're making a, well, let's just take a look, view the playlist. It looks like it's for making a particular style of baby quilt, but I'm sure if you want to make this bigger, if this was a pattern that really appealed to you, that you would have no problem enlarging the pattern. So this looks like a site, Nickel and Dime Decor, that has a lot of great ideas, a lot of inspiration. So you might want to check it out. So check them out. And Now, what's on my vision board? Well, it is another one from the McCall's Quilting Magazine, the September-October issue from 2018. One of the pages I marked in this magazine for future consideration, and then promptly filed the magazine away and forgot all about it. This one's called Autumn Twist. Again, this one has leaves in it, and I really like quilts with leaves. I like quilts with stars, and I like quilts with leaves, and I like quilts with butterflies. And and possibly quilts with gnomes, though I haven't found a lot of those yet. So here's a look at Autumn. This week's quilt pattern from my vision board comes out of a magazine called McCall's Quilting, the Best of American Quilting, the September-October 2018 edition. And a couple of weeks ago, I reviewed another pattern from this particular magazine. This one also caught my fancy when I purchase this magazine because, again, it has stylized maple leaves, and I do like that kind of block. This is called Autumn Twist, and you can see why. It does feature maple leaves, and they are done in autumn colors, some greens, browns, rusts, that kind of thing. I really like the design of this quilt. It looks like it's made up of a lot of half square triangles, which would make it relatively fast to put together, especially if you used triangles on a roll or triangulation, something like that. It looks like it's not a bad size quilt. 87.5 by 101 inches, it says, is the finished size. And it builds fairly large blocks because it says finished blocks. There's 8 blocks that are 12 by 12 inches, 15 blocks are 12 by 12, and 7 blocks are 12 by 12. So this would be a very quick quilt, I think, to put together. So that's the quilt this week on my vision board. And if you're interested in this pattern, I'm not sure if you can get a back copy of this magazine or not. You can check it out on their website, which is called quiltingcompany.com, and it's the McCall's Quilting September-October 2018 edition, and the quilt is called Autumn Twist. And now for something exciting. You know that lately I've been doing the Idiot Quilter Presents, and I've been doing it as musings or rants, whatever way you want to call them, whatever you want to call them. And because I haven't had any interviews. Well, a person from Scotland reached out to me and volunteered to be interviewed, and she has a YouTube channel as well. Her name is Kristen Hubert, and she lives in Edinburgh, Scotland. She is a Canadian. She lived in Toronto for many years, or was brought up in that area, and she's lived in Scotland now, I think, for 19 years. And she has a YouTube channel, and it's called Scrap Fabric Love, and I've put the link for that in the show notes below. And we had a really nice conversation, and it's a very interesting interview, and she's doing some really unique things. And she has come a long way since she's basically a new quilter. She's only been doing this for a couple of years. So, and she has a very unique take on quilting. So if you're into scraps, you're going to love this interview with Kristen. So here's
I can't remember why I started. I think I just I've got so as well as the channel and the blog I have that's about quilting. Before that, I did an upcycling blog, so it was probably something to do with that. And I was trying to like reuse something, and then I landed on something. And then, so basically my first quilt was like, I called it my learner's quilt.
Right.
It was basically just taking a whole bunch of free patterns off the internet and using the same fabric, but I didn't know what I was doing. So it was like upholstery fabric and making different blocks. And then I put it together with towels as batting and some other upholstery fabric on the back. It's so heavy. And I did it like quilt as you go, but I didn't like the first quilt as you go thing I did the first time. So then I changed. Oh my goodness. It was like, it's a quilt, but it's, yeah.
So yeah, you jumped right in there, and oh my God, upholstery fabric and towels, the whole bit. This thing must be, talk about a weighted blanket.
Yeah.
So that takes me to one of my quilts, and this is a Christmas table runner. Kind of forgot about this one. And I made this a couple of Christmases ago, I think. It is an in the hoop embroidery project, but it's based on the Dresden design. And Yeah, it took a long time to make, but I'm really happy with it. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Although Christmas is over, I'm looking ahead to next Christmas. But this is a table runner that I made a couple of years ago, and it's an in the hoop project. It's all done in my embroidery machine. And you can see it is a Dresden, and in each little petal of the Dresden has a different motif to it. This did take quite some time to make, but I was really pleased with the outcome. The only thing I didn't like about the pattern was they really didn't have anything here in the center part of each block. So I did a freestanding lace snowflake. I changed the size so it would fit into that circle. And after the table runner was completely sewn together, I fabric glued the snowflake down into the center of each of the blocks, just to give it a little bit more of a finishing touch. Now, I liked this pattern so much, and I had a lot of fun doing it, even though it took quite a bit of time. I decided to make one block into a table topper. And here you can see up close what that would look like. This is essentially just the block from the pattern kept out on its own. I didn't change anything. I added the borders to it, and it became an additional table topper. So this would make a really nice Christmas gift for somebody, but I would suggest that you start early because it will take you quite a long time. But I was very pleased with the outcome. So that takes me to the online quilt store of the week. And this one is called Quilt Time. Time is spelled Thyme, kind of like the herb. And, well, this week's online quilt store is one that I've had the pleasure of actually going into myself. And it is a really cute little quaint quilt store, but it is just packed with all kind of fabric and notions and other products as well. It's called Quilt Time, and it's located in Kingston, Ontario. And let's just take a look. I've never ordered anything from their website, and to be honest, I can't remember how I found their prices when I actually went into the store. You can see that on their homepage they're advertising cutie tabletop fabric frame. So for those people who might be interested in doing a little bit of long arming but not putting the expense into it, they do have something like this available for about $1,000. Quite frankly, my personal opinion, nothing against this product, but I feel that, it's maybe more trouble to use something like this than it is to use like a long arm or to learn to do it on your own domestic machine. But then again, that's up to an individual, and I am a little spoiled, as you know. Okay, below they do have their links and their address. And it looked like up at the top they're also talking, well, no, I guess they didn't talk about what they're doing at this moment, but I did see somewhere they do have curbside pickup as well, all because of COVID, of course. So let's jump right into shop online and see what they have to offer. Okay, so they've got things divided into categories: panel bonanza bargain, blocks of the month, books, fabric, patterns, panels, notions, new arrivals, pre-cuts, punch needle, quilt as you go, quilt kits, batting, wool applique, thread, seasonal, all yarn. Oh, they sell yarn, 3-yard quilt kits, and landscape pre-cuts. So if you're interested in getting some knitting supplies, it looks like they have some of those as well. But they are primarily a quilt store. So let's jump right into Panel Bonanza. Because it said bargain, I'm always attracted to a bargain. And let's see what it is that they are offering here. Okay. So I'm not sure what the bargain is. Oh, some of them are on sale. All right. And yeah, they have a fairly large selection of interesting panels. Oh, there's one of my favorites, the Timber Gnomes. I have that one. Ooh, it's on sale. Maybe I should get another one. Yeah, I've already done that one. Okay, so let's carry on with more. Let's get into their fabric, shall we? So, fabric, here we go. Okay, now one thing they don't seem to have is a sidebar that lists everything. I do like that when I see that on a website. But they have these in categories: Christmas fabric, itty bitsy project pieces. The names, they have Northcott, Venture Time. Of course, they've got the My Canada ones from Northcott, which I absolutely love. Canvas, which is very popular in Dublin as well. So they seem to have a wide spectrum of makes and brands: Riley Blake, Stonehenge Graduations. Let's just see what they're charging. Stonehenge Graduations is a very popular line. I've bought many of their fabrics, and it's $16.95. Now, is this a meter or is this by the yard? And it is by the meter, so bully for them. And it looks like you can get as little as, yeah, you can go down to as low as 0.3 meters of fabric. So that's pretty nice. Okay, so price-wise, at $16.95 a meter, I don't think that's out of the way. In fact, I think that's very good. Now, of course, that's something like Stonehenge Graduations, but let's go back and take a look at, say, what the price is on, well, some of the other more printed types of fabric. Well, let's check Riley Blake, because that's a very popular designer, as we well know. Okay, here's some of their things. $16.95 as well. So it looks like all their fabric is $16.95 a meter, which as I said earlier, I think that's very, very reasonable. So what else? That's their fabric. Let's take a look at what they have. They have a block of the month program. They have books. And now I don't buy a lot of books. And yeah, these are books that are pretty much anything you can get on Amazon as well. And for about the same price, might be a little less. Okay. Well, while we're looking at books, why don't we take a look at, say, patterns and see what their selection is there. Here we go. And anything here that's standing out that's a little different? Well, these are interesting. Oh, they're Laura Hain ones. So yeah, I have several of those myself, which I haven't done yet. They have quite a good selection of those. Have some bag patterns as well. Table runners, Studio 180 designs. Yeah, lots of bag patterns. And some applique. Yeah, they seem to have a fairly good selection of patterns, and the prices are pretty much standard. Okay, let's look for, what else do they have? I imagine the notions and things are pretty much your standard. Free motion tools, elastics, cutting tools, adhesives. Yeah, pretty much what you would expect. So we don't need to really look at those any further. And anything else that's standing out here that makes them maybe a little bit more unique. They do have needle punching if you're interested in that kind of thing. Oh, of course, I have to check out their pre-cuts and see what kind of selection they have in that. They have the cake mix recipes. That's the patterns for squares. They have charm packs, jelly rolls. Yeah, not a lot. And this is what I've been saying before. I find on a lot of the Canadian quilting websites, there is not really a great selection in pre-cuts. And anything else here that might be of interest that we might want to take a look at? Quilt as you go, quilt kits, Aurifil thread, batting. Let's take a look at just the price on Aurifil, because this is a thread that I go to all the time. $14.95, yeah, for 1300 meter spool. Yeah, that's standard price. And landscape pre-cuts. Now, I wonder what these are. Are these for making, like if you want to do a landscape type of quilt? Fat quarter bundle, $48, 12. Yeah, basically. These are ones, I suppose, if you were doing sort of a landscape art nature type of quilt, they have these already ready for you, pre-cut sizes. That's interesting. I don't think I've seen that on a website that I've reviewed so far. Okay, they do have a block of the month. And is this a club or? Yeah, it says Crossroads, $29.95 per month for each of the 12 months. So I guess that's what you're creating. That is pricey. Produces a large 92 by 92 inch quilt. So I guess you get with each one each month, you get the fabric with it as well. I would think so. At $30 per month, that's what, $360 for the year? That's pricey. That's really pricey. And this one runs for 6 months, but they don't have a price on it. Okay, if you're into this kind of thing, it might be fun, except I don't know, in my way of thinking, this seems very, very pricey. I guess it's because you're getting the fabric with it. But nevertheless, I think I'd rather just have the instructions and use fabric from my stash at those prices. So, well, it's an option, I guess. Now, calendar. So do they run classes? And in January, the answer to that would be no. And right here, nothing. So yeah, right now it looks like they probably aren't running classes because of COVID, of course, which is not unusual. Little about them. Quilt Retreat Time is home to an extensive selection of high-quality quilting fabrics from popular manufacturers such as Moda, Northwood, blah, 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 blah. Located between Toronto and Montreal. Okay, how to get there? Okay. And I was calling this Quilt Time, but I guess it's Quilt Retreat Time is the actual full name. Now, I was just going to see if I could find out about shipping. Let's see if I can do a search. Okay. Says there's one result. And there is nothing there. Okay, so I don't know what shipping costs. So let's do some fake shopping, shall we? Let's grab a fabric and put it in our cart. I'm just picking this one. I'm just doing this randomly. Add to cart. Okay. Proceed to checkout. All right. Taxes, of course, total. Okay, so here's the shipping. Based on your zip code, it says we're a postal code in Canada, not a zip code. Sorry if I get a little picky about things like that, but okay, according to this, it would still be $16.95. All right, let's say I wanted a larger amount. Now there's free in-store pickup and free curbside as well, but let's up the quantity here. Let's go to 5 meters. Yeah, that increases to $21.95. Yeah, I don't see anything that says they have free shipping over a certain amount. And this is probably Canada Post. So I'm shipping, yeah, is a little on the pricey side, I think. Um, Now it looks like the more you buy, I could only buy 5 meters of that, but the more you buy, it does get a little cheaper. Okay, so there you go. Let's get rid of that because I'm not buying it. So anyways, as I said, this is an in-person store. If you go into it in person, it's a very cute little store with lots to choose from. I bought quite a bit from them the time that I visited them. And yeah, so it's another option, I guess. That's Quilt Time or Quilt Retreat Time Quilt Store in Kingston, Ontario. So that brings me pretty much to the end of this week's episode. However, I want to talk about very quickly a couple of upcoming events. Craft and Chat. We're moving out of January. It's hard to believe. This month has just flown by, at least it has for me. And so next week, we're into February already. And the first Wednesday in February falls on February the 2nd, Groundhog Day. And that is Craft and Chat Day as well. And so Craft and Chat is on February the 2nd. It will start at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it runs until approximately 4 p.m. And all are welcome, as you know. Those of you that are on my mailing list for it, you will get your personal invitation with the link in it later this week. And in the show notes below, for everybody else who might like to join in, you will find the Zoom link there as well. It's open to everybody, as I've said, and we just work on whatever we want to work on, and it doesn't have to be a quilt. It can be any sewing project, any crafting project, any art project. It doesn't matter what it is. We just get together and have a good time working in a safe environment, talking about whatever as we work on our projects. And I always find it inspirational. I always find it interesting. I always find it educational. So you're more than welcome to join us if you can. And I was saying on my blog yesterday, I know there are some of you that would love to join the Craft and Chat, but you have something in your life that stops you from doing it. It's called work. I forget that people work since I've been retired now for almost 10 years and love it. Highly recommend being retired. So, I know you can't join us in the middle of the week on the middle of a day kind of a thing. So I am thinking if I get enough people say they would be interested in this, of doing maybe on occasion, not every week, but every now and then, a pop-up sew day. And what I mean by pop-up is I'll give you about a 24-hour notice that I'm going to do this. It would be probably on a Saturday or on a Sunday. It would be 4 or 5 hours, maybe 6 hours, starting in the morning, moving to about mid-afternoon kind of a thing on the day. And I would put up a special announcement on YouTube about that. So make sure you've hit the little button that says subscribe and the button that says, the little bell. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. But, put it for notifications on. So if I do that and it pops up, and as I said, I might do it on a Friday and say, okay, tomorrow, people, anybody that's interested, I'm going to have a pop-up sewing day. Here's the Zoom link for it, and here's what time it starts. And, whoever comes. Let me know what you think about that idea. Because, then people who can't make Craft and Chat, maybe they could make that if it was on a Saturday or a Sunday. So that's one idea. And it's coming up to the time where I'm going to have my spring retreat, the Idiot Quilter Retreat. Now, I have run 2 of these in the past, and both have been very successful. We've had a lot of people, and everybody seemed to enjoy themselves. If you are new to what an Idiot Quilter Retreat is, it's one day, usually on a Saturday. I give you lots and lots of warning as to the date. We get together, we sew, we talk. It's kind of like an extended version of Craft and Chat with, though, a little bit of a difference. I try to get some guest presentations. I do a trunk show of quilts that people send to me as well for that. And I outline all the specifics for that well in advance and how it all works. There are prizes as well. And the best part of the whole thing is it's absolutely free. I do not charge you for this. Um, I absorb the cost of the prizes, and the prizes are basically Amazon gift certificates. We have random draws throughout the day, and yeah, I really enjoy doing it. And from what I've gotten from the feedback, uh, people seem to enjoy coming to it as well. I do have a mailing list for that. So if you want to be on the mailing list for that retreat, then just send me your email address. My email contact information is in the show notes below, and I will add you to it. But of course, I will be making more detailed announcements about all of this. I do ask people to pre-register for it. That's just so I know how many people I would have, and it's done as a Zoom as well. And as I said, it's absolutely free. So right now, don't hold me to this yet. This isn't written in stone yet. I was waiting to find out the dates on a couple of other events that I'm involved in before I picked a date for this. But right now, it looks like I probably will be able to do it for Saturday, March the 5th. It would start at about 9 o'clock in the morning, my time, Eastern Standard, and run probably till about 5 or 6 o'clock p.m. that day as well. That is a Saturday as well. That's what I'm thinking. Not written in stone yet. Tune into this space for more details after I get it all confirmed. I will probably send out information about this or post the information about this here on my YouTube channel maybe next week, for sure the week after. Okay, but this is advance notice that it'll probably be March the 5th. So as I said, if you want to be on the mailing list for this, please go ahead and send your information to me. I just need your email address. That's all. Your name and your email address. First and last name, please, as well. And yeah, so stay tuned for more information. And of course, don't forget about Craft and Chat next Wednesday, February the 2nd. Okay, so I think that's it for me today. So thank you for joining me. I hope you have a great week. I hope it's creative. I hope you're being safe, and I hope you're healthy. And yeah, we'll see you next week. Bye for now.